Yeah, okay. So, hey, uh, this is a bit of a different type of video, especially considering that I haven't even done a video to begin with in a while. And what I mean by different type of video is that I'm actually narrating over like a sort of script, like reading from a sort of script. And if you're new here and here, like, or if you're a employee at Embark Entertainment, I'll put a timestamp here to where my actual like stuff starts. I'm gonna do a bit of like background to what I've been doing, what has been happening over the past month, I think, since I last uploaded. But yeah, without further ado, let's actually get into those. So, life has been busy, and I have. So, on my last upload, the first couple of weeks, I was studying, or was supposed to be studying, for a big exam. And after that, I did a lot of partying, like big parties with like family and stuff. And the week after that, I played a lot of Dark Souls 1. I've gotten I've played it. I've beaten it once. I'm gonna 100% complete it. It's on my Xbox, so I can't actually make a video on it on anyway. I'll probably make a make a video that is similar to this eventually. But yeah, or well, eventually when I beat it. Then after that, for the past week, I've been playing the finals. Play this closed beta 2. And yeah, pretty self-explanatory from the title of the video, probably. I am going to be giving my thoughts upon it and stuff like that. So, what exactly is the finals? The finals is a competitive with. Well, I mean, yeah, it is a competitive. It's a competitive team-based shooter with. It's a team-based, class-based shooter with trios versus trios, and the whole gimmick of it is that it's a game show slash sport thingy, and there's commentators and whatnot. And yeah, it's being developed by Embark Entertainment, a Swedish indie studio. Lavia. And yeah, it is really cool. I Yeah, and it's also free to play, or like it will be free to play. You can sign up for the beta now on Steam, and whenever a beta phase comes forth, like the one that I was part of, they'll send you an invite. They might send you an invite. You can also invite your friends, which is how I got in. Then onto the actual meat and bones of the video. So there, like, it is in beta, and as it is in beta, there are a couple of issues with it. I would like to point out that there were surprisingly little bugs, and it was very playable, but there were issues. So, first off, we'll do the biggest elephant in the room, the performance. It's it is how could I say it? It is good good like optimization for GPUs, like, but it is poorly optimized for CPUs. And what this caused, for me at least, is I was basically capped to 40 by my CPU, which run 100% all of the time. Like, it was utilizing like 70% of my or not GPU, CPU, and about 5% after that went to Discord, and then the rest went to important processes. But yeah, this is a very CPU intensive game, and as I said, I was constantly playing with 40 FPS and I was getting stutter spikes basically all the time. Now, they would vary in severity, but they were pretty bad. So if there's one thing, like if an Embark employee happens to watch this, please focus on CPU optimization as much as you can. Like, if you can't focus on it, I understand. Like, if it's a Unreal Engine problem, which it very well could be, if you can't do that, then I fully understand. Next off, a suggestion that I would like to make is for some of the graphical elements to be turned off, to be able to be turned off, as like in the closed beta 2, they were able to be put onto low settings, which, to be fair, my GPU was running fairly fine. It was at like 60% usage all of the time, which is fairly normal on low settings. And I don't have the most recent computer. I mean, that should probably be noted. So, like, older CPUs probably won't run this game. Yeah. But some elements you should be able to turn off in the graphical settings. For example, foliage and most particle effects. Because when you think about it, when you kill someone in the game, they spawn like a bunch of coins when they die, which is, it's a cool effect, and it plays into the theme of the game, which is money. But it's kind of, I don't know. It's just there's some things. Same with foliage. There's like some rocks on the ground or grass that's like, that should be able to be turned off. But anyway, that's it for the performance thingies. Now, there's some bugs that I noticed in the game, and it's important to report on these. Sometimes when, this was really rare, but friendly objects like the revive markers and shields and turret lasers sometimes appeared as red when they should be blue instead. There were points in the map where I got stuck on walls. For example, in Seoul on Objective C, the one that is at the end of the two bridges on the right side, not on the helipad, but under it, there is a server room, and within those server cabinets, you can get stuck in between them. There are like a couple of spots that can happen like that somewhere else in the game as well. Now, also, sometimes when I finished a match, instead of showing kills, revives, deaths, whatnot, it would show missing string table entry. The numbers would show up correctly, but the text wouldn't. I mean, the numbers wouldn't show up correctly in the sense that they were in the wrong like spot horizontally, but other than that, they would. Sometimes, especially when playing with friends, they couldn't invite me because the game showed me as offline when indeed I was actually in the game. There were some times when the game would kind of like shadow disconnect me in a way. And what I mean by that is I would remain in a party for myself. Like I could see every other member of the party that I was just in, but I would actually not be in the party, and the other members of the party wouldn't see me in the party. Sometimes I was unable to enter a new match, even if had done like even if I was alone, which there were sometimes. Also, sometimes I was unable to join a party even when I was alone, or leave a party. And there was some user in the Discord server saying that this was due to getting banned, but clearly it wasn't, because when I restart the game, it fixed it. One more thing about performance, the CPU issues caused constant crashes. There was one day where I crashed, or where the game crashed like over 10 times within the span of that one day. And yeah, also I don't know if it's a bug or they just haven't implemented it yet, but I was unable to use colorblind mode, which, as a person with deuteronomy, which is like red-green color weakness, it would be greatly appreciated if I could use the colorblind mode, but I managed without it. Then there are some improvements I would make to the game, like mechanics-wise. I was going to say that the quick cache game mode should be longer, but I'm actually going to retract that statement because I don't see any particular way to make it longer without making it too long. So, nothing about those. I think that fire should be buffed overall. I think that the auxiliary effect of fire, like you being on fire, it should do probably more damage per tick, and it could be extinguished by sliding. I think that would be pretty cool. Also, explosions should do more damage overall, and I'll get to the gadgets and weapons and whatnot, but mines especially are very specific about where the enemy is, on whether or not they do any damage at all. I could, like, as a light class, I could run past a mine and the mine would explode, but it would do no damage to me. If the mine was placed on, say, a door frame. But yeah. Then the random events things, I think that they are a cool idea, and I think that they should happen a lot more often, like the meteor shower or low gravity or mega damage or things like that. They should happen more often, even in quick cache. Then, as for the maps themselves, I know there are only 2 maps with each of them having 3 variations, and also, of course, they have like different light variations as well, with fog and daytime and nighttime fog and whatnot. Yeah, but like out of the 2 actual like different structures maps in Soul, there is moving platforms and under construction, and in Monaco there is suspended platforms and duck and cover. Now, like along with the normal maps. Now, suspended platforms and moving platforms, I found, are incredibly annoying to play. But I think that with suspended platforms, I just wasn't playing it correctly. You should try to knock them down once they're up in the air. And with suspended platforms, I could have chosen a heavy class with the RPG and shot them down that way. With moving platforms in Soul, that isn't an option, which is kind of annoying. Also, another bug, some things just wouldn't stick to moving platforms. For example, fire and smoke wouldn't work on moving platforms, and also the dome shield just slides right off. So yeah, I mean, moving platforms, there should be some sort of way to maybe either A, stop the moving platforms, or reduce the amount of cover that is already on the platforms. Like, yeah. That's pretty much it. I put suspended platforms here, but looking back, I could have played in a certain way to make them not annoying. But yeah. Next up, we have all the weapons, guns, and stuff. And I have a list of them here. I'm gonna list them off. We'll start off with the weapons, and then we'll go to the gadgets, and then the specializations. So, I'll say if something needs to be changed, and I'll list all of the weapons. So, AKM. Basic AK, I think that it was fairly balanced. CL40, the pump action grenade launcher that launches impact grenades. It was annoying to play against, but I think that it actually was pretty fairly balanced. Maybe a tiny nerf, like reduce the reload speed like a tiny bit. Dagger, a high skill, high reward melee weapon for the light class. It was fun to play against. I mean, it was fair to play against and fun to play as, so no need to change anything there. The field carbine rifle, carbine assault rifle, or FCAR, it was a higher skill version of the AKM with the bullets do higher damage, but the magazine size is smaller. I think that that's fairly balanced as well. Then the flamethrower, a heavy weapon. The flamethrower was... It was kind of... I personally thought that it was pretty balanced. But a lot of my friends said that it wasn't fun to play against. I think that I honestly think that it was pretty balanced. Yeah. Then the Lewis gun. I think that with the Lewis gun, it was just a slightly better version of the M60, and I barely saw the M60 be used outside of beginners in a match. So I think that with the Lewis gun and the M60, the Lewis gun should be a higher skill version of the M60. With that being said, there should be probably more of a difference between them. The Lewis gun does slightly more damage. I think that it should have a smaller magazine. So kind of the same situation with the AKM and the FK, but instead with the M60 and the Lewis gun. There was like... Yeah, make it so that the Lewis gun is just a higher skill version of the M60 and not like a strictly better version of the M60. The LH1 or the M14 rifle in the game, I think that it was... Again, one of my friends said that the zoom on it was way too much. I think that it was a bit too much. It was still playable. But the fact of the matter is that I barely saw it being used. And I think that maybe it should be on some other class than light. Maybe it should be on the medium class, because it's kind of like a... It has a very limited magazine, but it has very high damage. It's kind of like a sniper without a scope, but a lot less damage. The M11 and XP54, so aka Mac 11 and MP5, yes. The Mac 11 was... I saw it... I didn't see a lot of players use it, aside from the newer ones. They would always use the MP5. So I think what happens here is the same thing that happens with the M60 and the Lewis gun, is that the MP... or Mac 11 is just... or the MP5 is just a strictly better version of the Mac 11. And I think that that probably shouldn't be the case. I think the Mac 11 fire rate should be buffed like way up, like, or like maybe not way up, but I think that the fire rate on the Mac 11 should be buffed. The M60 I already talked about. The MGL 32, or aka the rotary grenade launcher, I think I didn't see it be used that much. It has a viability, especially as it is, if you direct hit with it, it detonates instantly. I think that in here is just the same problem that explosives have no splash radius in this game. So I think that's a bit of the same problem here. But other than that, like, not really anything to talk about. or to change in that, the Model 1887. It is a lever action shotgun for the medium class. I barely saw this being used, and from my experience with it, it did not do enough damage. That's all I'm gonna say. It needs to do a lot more damage in order to be even considered viable. Next up, the revolver, or R357. It's a medium weapon for some reason. I think that the weapon itself is fairly balanced, but I don't think that it should be on the medium class. I think that it should be on the light class, and instead of the revolver, the medium class should have the LH1, so the M14. Next up, Riot Shield. The Riot Shield itself was pretty balanced. It was difficult to use, and it's kind of like, with post knowledge of Call of Duty and how riot shields are a pain in that game, or those games, I think that it should be kept as is or removed entirely. It's kind of like it's very much a trick weapon, and I doubt that it'll see much use. The SA-1216, or the weird shotgun for the heavy. So essentially, what it is it's a 4-round. It's four 4-round magazines, and then you have to reload it. There's an actual shotgun with the same mechanic that it's based on. I can't remember the name of it. I think that the shotgun could be very deadly if used properly. Again, it did not do enough damage. Or the spread was pretty awful, and the firing action of the shotgun was not that fun to use either, so that it just stops firing after 4 rounds, and then you have to click fire again for it to fire the next 4 rounds. I think that it should continue on to the next 4 rounds with a bit of a delay, maybe, but other than that, it's pretty balanced. The SH-1900, so a sawed-off double-barrel shotgun. This weapon, again, it could, in my opinion, like, I've seen a lot of opinions of people that say that it's fairly balanced. I think that it should do a bit more damage. Not a lot, just like a teeny tiny bit. The sledgehammer is not very viable, other than when it comes to destructions. So it's kind of like the sledgehammer has a right hand or right click attack, where the heavy does an overhead, like an overhead sweep with it, and that insta kills lights, which is kind of cool. So in that sense, it's the same as with the dagger, high skill weapon. I think that the left hand swipe should be a bit faster, like just a tiny bit. The SR-84. Now, originally, I thought that this is a sniper. Originally, I thought that they should be changed in the sense that it should be put on the medium class. But looking back now, I don't think that there's anything to be changed about this. Maybe buff the damage a little bit so that you can one-shot a light with from a body shot. It's kind of like, but also I think that maybe not. Like, it requires a huge amount of skill, but if you can hit with it, it is very deadly. So honestly, looking at it now, it doesn't need a buff or nerf. It's pretty good. The sword. This is a light weapon that needs to be nerfed. It should be nerfed. Like, not by a huge amount, but slightly. It was a very common build, like sword and then cloak. And we'll get to the cloak eventually, but the sword was a very common weapon as well, and I think it's honestly not that bad. Maybe, yeah, it could do with like a tiny nerf, but aside from that, not really much else. Then, the dread of this video, the V9S, aka the silenced pistol in this game. The silenced pistol does way too much damage, and it has way too many bullets. The silenced pistol needs to be hard nerfed. Because, oh my goodness, it can solo like several heavies. And that is very unfair. And it is, the silenced pistol was by far the most popular build that I saw being used. Silenced pistol cloak was the most popular build that I saw being used for the light. And then the MP5, I already talked about it. I think the MP5 itself is in a pretty good spot. I think that just the Mach 11 should be buffed. Then the gadgets. Let's start again from the top. This is all in alphabetical order, by the way. The APS turret. I think the APS turret should be buffed. It should be given a slightly like a larger radius on where it can destroy enemy grenades and stuff like that to make it more viable. The barricade, I think the barricade should also be slightly buffed. I think they should have more health and be larger to combat it, to make it, you know, be used more, because otherwise people are just going to use the goo grenades and goo gun, which we'll get to in a moment. The breaching charge, incredibly fun to use to trap areas with, and it is, I think it is fairly balanced. It can kill a light and a medium instantly. It can't kill a heavy, I think. The C4, basically a buffed up version of the breaching charge. I think that the C4 is also fairly balanced. Then the defibrillator. I think, and this is a very controversial opinion apparently, but I think the defibrillator should be buffed slightly. In a trade-off for the healing beam being nerfed. It's kind of a interesting thing, if I do say so. Anyway, then the dome shield. Aside from the obvious problem that I stated earlier, the dome shield, I think that the dome shield is pretty good. I think that is pretty fair. It could do maybe with a slight nerf, like, because it takes one full magazine to destroy a dome shield from like an AK. I think that's a bit too much. But aside from that, it's fairly good. The explosive mine is good. Aside from the problem that I stated with explosives earlier, that they are extremely specific on the radius of them. Like, I think that all explosive radiuses should be changed or should be increased. Then the flashbang. What can I say? It's a fairly basic thing, a flashbang. I don't think that this needs to be changed in any way. The frag grenade. Same thing here. The explosion radius needs to be upped. The gas grenade. I think that the gas grenade is a fair weapon. It does a lot of damage, but it doesn't move, or it doesn't, inflict the player with any sort of auxiliary effect. I think that is fine. Gas mine, same thing. Glitch grenade. Incredibly specific, but if you can use it properly, I think that is pretty fair and balanced. It lasts for a while, which is kind of annoying. But it can be pretty cool. Glitch trap, same thing. There, it's fairly balanced, I think, but I did not see anyone running these traps at all. Like, I did not see them once inside of a game. And I mean, with the glitch things, with all of them, they are very specific, and people would rather just use sonars, which we'll get to in a moment. The goo grenade. I think the goo grenade should take a lot more fire damage. Or like the goo that it creates. So this is essentially just for the goo grenade and like for all goo effects. I think they should take more fire damage, but aside from that, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the goo grenade should have like a slightly smaller radius on where it can, like, because right now it does 10 blobs of goo arranged in a horizontal pattern, so in rows of 5. I think that it should instead probably be like rows of 3. But other than that, it's fairly balanced, I think. Wait, was it the goo actually like the barrels that you find? I can't remember. But if I'm talking out of my and it actually is just 3x2s, then I don't think that it needs to be changed in any other way than it should take more fire damage. The incendiary grenade. The incendiary grenade, I mean, it's just a fire effect thing. It should do more fire damage. That's basically all. Same with the incendiary mine. The jump pad is fairly balanced. I don't think that it needs to be changed in any way. The proximity sensors. I couldn't get these to work. I saw them being used. So I don't know exactly what they're like supposed to be. They're essentially recon things or sonar things, which, as much as I hate them, I don't exactly know how these are supposed to be used. And they're not like other, like for example the APS turret, where it has a radius in it where it like does the effect. Or like the incendiary mines, when you step on it, it does the effect. The proximity sensor, I think it kind of... It's a mine, I think. But I saw these being used, and I saw them work, but I also saw them not work. So these are also extremely specific on how close to them you are in order to get the effect. But other than that, I think it's fairly balanced. The RPG-7, it can one-shot lights, which is kind of annoying, but I think that it is also fairly balanced. The smoke. This is the only smoke thing out here, and it is the smoke grenade. So it is the only smoke effect out there, aside from the barrels that you can find on the map. And it needs to be buffed. The smoke needs to be way thicker. You need to, like... You could take some examples from, you know, Counter-Strike 2. I think that they do the smoke, like, really well. Yeah, but it needs to be way thicker, the smoke. Like, not see-through. Like, if you're in the smoke, like, in the current phase, if you are in the smoke, you can see everything around you. And I don't think that that should be the case. The sonar grenade. Oh boy. These were incredibly annoying to play against. And they have way too large of a radius. Like, holy damn. They can spot people inside a house, on top of the house, outside the house, if you place them correctly. And they should have, like, the effect should be way small. Like, the radius should be way smaller. The stun gun, then. I personally didn't like this weapon, or gadget. I didn't use it that much. But from what I saw it being used, it is pretty fair. It's a high skill gadget for the light class, and I think it's pretty fair. Oh, I just realized I skipped over night vision. Night vision. Personally, for me, it showed myself as white, or like it showed everything in grayscale, and every enemy was white, and I was white. But it was, in that sense, it was kind of bad. If it shows every enemy in red, it is pretty good. But at least for me, that didn't happen. But for one of my friends, he said that it did show enemies in red, so I don't know what to believe then. And then the thermal vision. The thermal vision is... Wait, the thermal vision was the red and white one. I think that, honestly, the thermal vision should have, like, an actual thermal vision effect. With, like, footsteps and stuff. Like, it should be the blue to yellow to green to red scale that you see in thermal vision things. And I think that should be executed instead like that, where all enemies are just red. And then the night vision. The night vision was not really useful. I mean, it improved visibility, but that's about it. I had pretty good visibility to begin with, so I think it's kind of a useless gadget, and I think that maybe it should be removed. Then the tracking dot. I think that the tracking dot needs to be buffed. It in itself, I don't know if it lasts until the player that is being tracked dies, but if it doesn't, it should. And you should also be able to shoot a lot more of them before reloading. Like you should be able to spam it a little bit for it to be viable. And then the zipline. I think it's honestly fine. Maybe the charge time needs to be like made a slightly longer. And maybe they should like degrade over time. But it's fine, I think. Those are just like maybes that I want to point out there. Then we have left specializations. The Charge and Slam, I think that it should do more damage. The Cloaking Device, I think that is pretty fair. I was told that if you stay still, it makes you basically invisible. Like it is an item description in the game. I think that that's... I mean, people say that it's too OP. I think that if you are high skill, you can spot it pretty easily. And I've died many times with it. So I honestly don't think that it needs to be changed. Evasive dash. How do I feel about evasive dash? I didn't really use it, but honestly, it's fine. It's fine. I think it works as intended, and it doesn't need any buffs or debuffs. The Goo Gun. Same with the Goo Grenade. But I think the Goo Gun, since it only shoots one blob, I think that it should have a charge time. Like right now, it can shoot 20 blobs, and then it needs to be reloaded, and then it can shoot another 20 blobs. I think that it should have a charge time. That's all I'm gonna say. The Grappling Hook. I think that it's fair. It can be used to save you from a tight situation. Same with the evasive. It's basically the same with the evasive dash, but it's just slower, but it has more range. I think that maybe it should be buffed with even more range. But yeah, it's pretty good. The Guardian Turret. I think it should have a little less HP. But aside from that, it's fairly balanced. The Healing Beam. I think that the Healing Beam should be nerfed. I think that it should do less healing per second because oh wait, no. I think that it should not do healing if the enemy is being damaged. Because right now, it is primarily used to pocket people. So, the medic can sit in a corner and, let's say, a heavy can just shoot at the enemy and kill them very efficiently. So I think that it shouldn't heal when damage is being taken. Or no, when the person that you are healing takes damage. It should heal in between those things. Aside from that, pretty balanced. The Mesh Shield, it has a little too much HP, I think. Aside from that, it's good. The Recon Sensors. It's essentially a personalized sonar grenade. I didn't see this being used that much. It maybe should have like a more clear indicator when an enemy is behind a wall and when an enemy is not behind a wall, and maybe the range should be upped a bit, just slightly. But yeah, and that's actually the last specialization. Now, overall, what I felt like playing with the classes, the light, I primarily played as Cloak and Dagger because it was incredibly fun to play, with also breaching charges, flashbangs, and incendiary grenades. With the medium, I played AKM, healing beam, jump pad, and defibrillator. And also, I think I played either incendiary or gas. And with the heavy, I usually went for a destruction loadout, so I used a gun or the sledgehammer, RPG-7, mesh shield usually, then C4 and a C4 explosive mines, and yeah. But I think overall the light class was definitely the most used and definitely the most overpowered due to the pistol, or the silence pistol. Medium was after that, and heavy was barely used at all. So I think those numbers should be evened out a little bit. And overall, I just wish for more content in this game. Next up, some overall thoughts of how I felt to play the game. I really, really, really like. I know that some people, I don't know how, but they dislike the commentators in the matches. I really like the commentators in the matches, especially the attention to detail with in Seoul, the having I think a Korean commentator, and in Monaco having a French commentator, like an in area commentator. There was like an in area commentator for the local language and then for English, as there is in sports matches. And then there was also the online commentators. I think, yeah, they had names. It's like June and someone else. I should remember them. But yeah. And that felt amazing. Like the feeling of sports in this game. Also, like clutching revives and steals, like felt amazing. Now then, I guess for the final leg of this video, I could say, will I play this game? I'll probably try it when it comes out, and I'll participate in the betas if someone invites me to play them. But I probably won't play it like constantly, simply because I don't really like, it is not the game for me. I don't really like competitive shooters, just that's the way it is. I used to like them, But then I realized, like, I just get angry with them, and no, even if there are cool things, I just don't like them. But as a competitive shooter, as a person who has played CS:GO for over 500 hours, I can say that as a competitive shooter, the finals is it is definitely unique, and it is pretty cool, and it has potential. I think that it just needs to be balanced, like really balanced. Also, another thing that I just remembered, the you couldn't join back into a quick cash match that you had been kicked, or that you have, for some unknown reason, spoilers, it was lag. You have been, if the game crashes, you can't join back in, which is a real bummer, and I think that they should add that in the next beta, or in the final game. And yeah, on these types of videos, I might do more of them on games that I have not had the chance to do any videos on for one reason or another. This one being, I couldn't do a video on this because it took up 100% of my CPU, and opening OBS would definitely have killed it. So I'll do more of these types of videos. But yeah, I think that this game is a really cool looking game. It definitely has style and substance, and it is pretty fun to play as far as competitive shooters go. And there definitely could be, like, I know that it is already like framing itself to be esports, but there definitely could be esports. And I really like the Control-esque destruction physics. They're amazing. I expect as much from a neighbor from the country that neighbors the country that made Control. But yeah, it was pretty fun. I probably won't play. I mean, I'll probably play a couple of matches when it releases, but aside from that, yeah, not that much. So that's it. This was a surprisingly long recording session of almost an hour currently. But yeah, I think that's it. I'll get back to making videos soon. I'll just have to edit the tier, or like the what is it? Tech tree for that Landfall Archives thing. And also, I have to read a book, and I'm like 1/5 of the way through it. No, maybe actually 1/3 right now, but I'll have to read that book by the end of this month, and I have to then return it to the library. So that's the thing I have to do before I start doing anything. But yeah, I expect more content from me in the future. And I'm almost arriving at the 1 hour mark as I'm looking at this recording right now. Yay. I hope that this works. I hope that everything, I hope that the voice worked properly. I need to change my audio settings after this back to normal, where I actually do have some background noise. And I mean, I hope to 3D print an arm for this microphone, so that I can actually use it without having background noise. But yeah, we just broke the 1 hour mark. See you later. Oh, and happy Pride Month, even if it's very late.